Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve here brings up a subject I have no knowledge of, and I react to it. And Steve will react as well to my reactions, and we have a good discussion about it. So, over to Steve.
Hi, people. Looks like the Middle East is beginning to heat up a little touch. A little tiny country called Yemen have got their rebels, Houthi rebels called Houthi. I thought that Houthi was the lead singer of Houthi and the Blowfish many years ago. Apparently not. It's these guys in Yemen who are sending drones, suicide drones, to attack commercial shipping going to Israel from their roundabouts. And the US have sent their navy into the coast off of Yemen to protect these commercial ships, you know, where perhaps the US also has a commercial interest. The thing is, in another podcast, we were talking about the depleted numbers of recruits for the US.
Yeah.
And the Navy is not different, not only in terms of sailors, but in terms of hardware, in terms of ships, in terms of, reduced the stock of submarines. They've reduced the stock of support ships for the bigger ships, and when these Houthi rebels send their drones across, the other day they sent 38 drones to attack these merchant ships.
Yeah.
The US Navy shot the drones down.
Yeah.
The only problem is for the US Navy is that each shell that the US Navy launches to shoot down a drone is estimated costs $2.1 million. I didn't think they were that expensive.
Well, yeah.
But then I'm only used to buying Brock fireworks,
Yeah.
But apparently the $2.1 million a shot.
Yeah.
And the drones, the suicide drones, are $20,000 a shot. So all that Yemen's got to do is just keep sending the drones across, and the US is going to spend an awful lot of money trying to protect these ships. Some could argue that it might be cheaper to let the ships get hit than protecting the ships from the cheap drones that are coming across. And also the fact that the bigger ships have only got 900 rounds that they can fire, and because of the smaller ships that supply the bigger ships are in demand, and the Americans can't even keep up with the production of making new shells to get them shipped out to the coast of Yemen to protect the merchant shipping. Granted, there's I think a British ship and an Australian ship that are doing the same things. Not too sure if anybody is going to try and take out Yemen as a country, because that would all the other countries around Yemen are going to protect Yemen, and then all of a sudden you've got the whole of the Middle East up in flames.
Yeah.
So what can the US do apart from order the merchant ships to stop taking the ships across that
Red Sea,
that part of, and of course then you get a huge loss in terms of the economies for various countries.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's it.
But there you have it. But for the US to protect these merchant ships, it's costing them 100 times more than what it is
Yeah.
For Yemen to send the drones across.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it brings to mind, I mean, years ago, I worked for a different sector of it because obviously I worked for a multinational company. We did part transportation, part space, and part missile, well, weaponry. Yeah, I mean, these things are sophisticated pieces of kit. They're not, as you said, fireworks effectively. Yeah, they seek, destroy. Yeah, I mean, Patriot missiles years ago were about $2 million a shot, quite literally. Yeah. And they're part of the Iron Dome. I don't know what these are. I mean, yeah, when I worked for a company, their most profitable product overall for the whole thing was the multi-purpose missile. And I asked, well, what does it do? And it's not doing anything. Make the tea, does the cooking. I got told not to be facetious. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, I knew. Yeah, it a bit sarcasm. Like I said, I like military things. I like history, and you catch. Yeah, I was going to go in the military, as I keep saying. Now it's always interesting is about military things that they often say armchair commanders talk about numbers, and we're talking about obviously numbers. Actual real military leaders talk about logistics, keeping your army supplied. You could have 2 million people. If you can't feed them or keep them supplied with armaments, you've had it. I don't believe the US, they're not going to be a problem. Yes, the supply ships, keeping the supply ships going. It's not such a remote, from what I can tell, it's not such a remote part of the world that it's not possible. You're not surrounded exactly with friendly people, but yeah, there is an international effort, and it will probably be US run, US coordinated. They'll be putting those things in there. Yeah, there's a lot we don't know. I'd imagine that it's the US. I mean, obviously they've got to keep the trade route open. Yeah, and it's not being done for the love of Israel. This isn't. This is being done for the love of keeping the Western world supplied with whatever they need to through that trade route. I personally think the Israelis are looking after themselves, despite what we keep getting told. We've been supplying them for years, the Israelis, for such an event. And the Israelis are capable of, producing things internally. I mean, we say about production and everything. Wars always catch people off guard. You can't plan a war, really. This is an unplanned war. What actually happened caught everyone by shock. Probably the Iranians probably knew it was coming, but probably the only country in the region that did.
If the truth be known, Israel knew as well.
Well,
it's just that they didn't. They rested on their laurels.
Yeah, they had their 9/11 or they had their Pearl Harbor. Unfortunately, yeah, they didn't think, oh no, that's not possible. They wouldn't be stupid enough to try that. These are terrorists. They'll try anything. Yeah, I was a bit surprised when the Israelis got caught with that. I would have thought the gliders would have been shot straight out of the air. But yeah, but obviously everybody's going to be having a go, coordinated probably by Iran. I mean, yeah, that is a fear. How the world would go when Israel had finished with Hamas and Houthis and Hezbollah as well. They're going to be turning their attention to Iran. Anything can happen there. I mean, forget what's happening at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Americans are critical. Yes, it costs a lot of money. Wars cost a lot of money. Don't forget, when the military aren't engaged, they're actually training. So all your money is being spent on training. Yeah, wars do cost money, and it is a war we've got going on there. It's not an operation; it's a war.
Well, in the case of the US, of course, they spent billions and billions in Ukraine. And they depleted their own weapons, sending them across to Ukraine.
Yeah,
and of course, then we have the debacle of the retreat out of Afghanistan
Mm.
and all the material that they left there. Even though the guy from the Pentagon, the spokesperson, said
Yeah.
that they didn't leave any ammunition there. They
Oh, that's all
just,
right. Yeah.
you know, but I mean, the fact that he said it doesn't mean to say that it's not it's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do I believe anything that gets said by this American administration?
these last 2 years for the US, it's been nothing short of a.
Well, it's
I
embarrassment.
mean, yeah. Well, you've just took the word out of my
I mean,
mouth there.
I mean, I I cannot believe. I mean, okay, we all have an opinion about the Americans that foreign policy has always been possibly not always the best advised, but we need them to be a strong nation. Well, um, I couldn't help but agree with the previous administration about NATO, and don't get NATO will be, yeah, could be involved in this. About, yeah, which was effectively the US. And yeah, it is a wars are always going to be difficult. They're going to be faulty. And don't forget, there could be a lot of newspaper talk here. False propaganda, fake news, call it what you want, to lull the enemy into a false sense of security. Although I'd have thought when you're dealing with these types of people, you want to actually appear as strong as you can, not as weak as you can. Yeah.
Well, that's what the US is trying to do. It's beating its chest,
Yeah.
to try and appear, but they're so thinly spread out now with the South China Sea, Ukraine, now this in the Middle East,
Well,
and they're still licking the wounds from Afghanistan. They're just being shown to be a weak country,
yeah,
and,
I mean,
their lack of leadership on the world stage, I suppose. I'm afraid to say,
well,
that the US is losing its luster.
yeah, and what's happening politically in the US at the moment? I mean, we've gone from war to talk about the US and the administration and what's been happening last week with supposed action against the president. Isn't really a good look and isn't going to really help the situation at the moment. Whatever happens in November, that isn't going to kick in effectively to start until January, and then it's going to take a month to get things ticking over from there. Yeah, we're good. We're good another year away from actually anything sort of positive happening. It's, I mean, okay, you could say it's the US that weren't prepared. The world was not prepared. It was obvious what was going to happen in Eastern Europe at some point. That was telegraphed. What the Middle East was always going to kick off at some point. You could never quite predict how there. It was quite obvious that there was going to be something. I mean, yeah, I read about all these flashpoints 4 years ago. Yes, one year.
Well,
yeah.
which is exactly why the play to be fair to the US, the rest of the world has been putting all of their is being dependent on the US's on the US's final word.
Yeah.
But like I said, the US has lost its shine.
Yeah.
It's lost an awful lot of wealth, and consequently, it's lost a lot through a failing economy. And it's I put the US in third place in the world now. I think China's taken over. I think the BRICS nations are taking over, and I think Russia, for example, their economy is booming. They've never sold so much to. They sold more to non-European countries.
Yeah.
This last 18 months.
Yeah.
Than they have from selling to the European countries. All the gas has been sold.
Yeah.
All their products are being sold, all between the BRICS nations,
Well,
you know, and sadly, the US is being a little bit left behind.
I mean,
The US and Germany.
yeah, okay. I mean, now everyone's now talking about Europe being one entity, including still lumping the UK into it as well, which is understandable. It's yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, is China in a position to take over from the US in many ways? I don't know. I mean, they've got a big army, but that's all it is. It's a big standing army. Do they have the logistic? Do they have the logistic capability to do what America does? I don't know. I mean, we can discuss this and discuss this. I don't think so personally, because China has a lot of internal problems. That remember in the way they set up with the provinces and everything else. Okay, let's look at it. Probably the next most powerful, biggest country other than China is Russia or Brazil, are members of the BRIC countries, so the next powerful ones. It depends how you work the thing. Theoretically, I mean, Brazil overtook Canada last year in
In the
world
economy.
position in economy, ninth biggest economy in the world, so overtook Canada.
Yeah.
Well, Canadians have had the wrong leader for 6 years, so that's hardly a surprise. Yeah, okay, we're going to get political here. Yeah, I mean, things didn't really change that much in Brazil. They've basically got a few things internally that we felt here, but overall, Brazil's big enough to look after itself.
Yeah.
To join the BRICS made a lot of sense, and I said that to a few Brazilians. I said, but that's strange coming from a European. Well, that's a reality. I live in Brazil. Yeah. It sticks in my throat a bit, but what have the BRIC countries ever got in recent years? Have got from our Western world. That's what we got to ask ourselves.
Exploitation.
Well, yeah. I mean,
exploitation.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, you've got China and actual business people under the communist regime, but the communist regime is just an extension of how China has operated for thousands of years. So they're used to it. It is as I say, it's a changing world. When people have been talking about the end of times and everything, it doesn't mean the end of the world. What end of times actually means is it's the end of our established way of thinking that has been in existence for since the end of 150 years, something like that. Yeah,
something like that. I was going about to say at the from the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, and Second World War. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was thinking. Yeah. I mean, if you actually
the Great Wars, they changed the way we think.
Yeah. I mean, overall, the US was part of the British Empire. The US is in effect the last remnants of a British Empire in some ways. I know it left before that a long time, but yeah, 1700s. But yeah, so we have to accept there is going to be change. The Biden administration has been well aware of this. Trump certainly was. Was Trump just trying to delay it? He couldn't prevent it, or being equal. I've got no problem with there being two polarized equal worlds, which makes a lot of sense for me. Yeah. Bigger trading blocks, bigger things to look after. It means that, you've got one block to look after itself, another block to look after itself, providing there isn't some other ambitions that could overspill. What's happening at the moment in the world is not an overspill. As far as I know, China are not involved with it directly. Okay, you've got Iran. They're talking about an axis of evil. It's not.
No, they tried that already. The US tried that already.
Yeah, it's not. There's no real love between the Chinese and the Iranians, I don't think.
Seven wars in 2 years.
Yeah.
What was his name? One of the generals, Wesley Clark.
Mm.
He said this in 2001.
Yeah.
That a guy at the Pentagon and a guy took him a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And he said they're going to be, and then George Bush said, the axis of evil,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
these are the countries that are going to be sorted out, basically. But that was all planned out a long time, long time ago. They tried it and failed, to be quite honest,
Well, yeah.
because they just spent something like $20 trillion in Iraq for no reason.
Mm. Yeah.
They're back to square one.
Yeah. It is a. I mean, America would have had to have pulled out of it, and we talk about Afghanistan, would have had to have pulled out of Afghanistan at some point. Um, Trump had or the Trump administration had plans for it, I believe.
Yeah, they were underway.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said,
Because
get the army out first, get all the equipment out first,
Yeah.
sorry, get the equipment out
out
first, the
first.
people out first, and then the army out last.
Yeah. Trump is a business person. He doesn't like leaving equipment for anyone. And he said, "Oh, it'd be cheaper to leave it." No, it won't be. I mean, yeah. You can't put things beyond use. I mean, yeah, you could turn it into one great big metal scrapyard, but it's the whole situation is crazy. I mean, we are going to look how history will judge our period at the moment. I mean, we can have the real doomsayers and everything else. I think we're getting to the end of an 80-year cycle, as you said.
Yep. Yep.
And we'll start the next one, hopefully on a bit more of a positive thing. We'll sort ourselves out, and we'll start the next cycle.
Let's see if it'll start in Yemen. That's the warmest place so far.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, it's what would they call it? 4D chess or something that's going on at the moment. Yeah, everybody's trying to position themselves. What's going to happen? The US are trying to seem to be positioning themselves with everyone. I don't know. Yeah, giving money to Iran. I don't know why.
I think it's a board game. I think it's called Warcraft.
Yeah,
or something like that. It's
Or
a game of war. Game of war.
Yeah, it used to be Risk as well. Yeah, yeah, but yeah.